All right, it's Thursday. Let's go ahead and get into it. I, you know, when I pick stories, I try to pick things that primarily that I find interesting. Because if it's boring to me, I'm not going to talk about it. Because part of the reason I do this is to entertain people. That's one of the reasons. But also it's about knowledge and it's about learning about things and discussing things that matter in our culture. And this episode, I think I'm gonna have quite a few rants. Okay, so that's just yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you guys remember, but I talked about manspreading a while ago. And it was about that woman who I kind of think it was a joke, and I think it was just satire. But this woman made a chair that was designed to prevent manspreading. The chair was made, it's this really bad chair that no intelligent person would actually sit in, or maybe sit in, but definitely not buy, just because it wasn't good for your back or anything like that. But pretty much there was a man's chair and a woman's chair. The man's chair was made to have his legs closed and his knees touching. And the woman's chair was made to encourage women to spread their legs. And I was like, well, I'll be doggone. That's pretty interesting. Now, it's kind of dumb because us guys, what we would do, we could just, buy the woman's chair and just manspread our way through the day. But now, I want to talk about women's spreading. And, we've talked, there's the woman spreading where they because women tend to carry like a lot of bags, like grocery bags, just different bags, and they put them on the seats next to them. And that can be considered woman spreading. But women are taught, and were taught for a long time, to sit with their legs closed. This Swedish ad celebrates the opposite, and it encourages women to spread their legs when they sit. So I want to go in and get into this. This is from RT.com. It's called Becoming What They Hate. Swedish ad celebrates woman spreading years after feminists raged against uncouth male sitting posture. A provocative advertisement produced by a Swedish marketing firm has tipped its hat to women spreading, purportedly a female empowering knockoff of the much derided male sitting position. The gimmick was not well received. Swedish department store Hansa, which sells fashion items as well as food and drinks, enlisted Malmo advertising agency to stir up its brand image, and it seems the stunt worked. The agency rolled out a video showing a woman in a pink pantsuit spreading her legs wide as she sits on what appears to be a bus or a train. Celebrate the woman spread, the ad reads. Now, there's a tweet about this, but I can't read it because it's not in English. Malmo Advertising told Swedish media that the idea was inspired by the apparent lack of women spreaders, apparently paying tribute to the handful of courageous females who bravely spread their legs while sitting in public places. A marketing manager for Hansa praised the ad, describing it as just right for us and how we want to position ourselves. But Swedes appeared to be less receptive to the somewhat contradictory message of women embracing something that men are regularly shamed for. Imagine constantly pointing out oppression and problematic behaviors in men only to copy those behaviors and highlight them as cool and empowering. The irony is lost on them, noted one unimpressed comment. Now that's beautiful. You know, I'm just, listen. Ladies out there, I explained this in the last episode. Men, we man spread because we have a penis and testicles dangling between our legs. It's not a power thing. That's not it at all. We're not even thinking about that. We're just trying to not crush Mr. Johnson and his twin suitcases. It's that simple. It's not about power. We don't do it just to just take up as much space as possible. Now, again, there are those who, they do it kind of as a joke and they try to man spread as wide as possible. But this comment here is huge. Because it's like, okay, I asked this. Is this ad, is it to empower women to do the same thing that us men do? Or is it made to have men sitting next to her be annoyed and that way we close our legs? What is the point of it? It doesn't make any sense. A big problem in the feminist movement is that there's a lot of hypocrisy. A lot. I don't understand. What are you trying to do? Because here's the thing. If you want to sit with your legs open, okay. You can. But in New York, I don't know if any of you knew this, but it is a misdemeanor for a man to sit with his legs open. It's a misdemeanor for a man to man spread. I think I cited this earlier in that earlier episode. Steven Crowder, who's a conservative commentator and a comedian, he did this video where he went out in public and he went up to women with this, not a contraption, but I'll just say it was pretty much this thing. I can't think of the word that I want to use, but he gave women this thing and he said, would you put this on and just sit down and just talk to me? And what it was this thing that was supposed to go on between their legs, and it was like a penis and testicles. And every single woman sitting down just naturally spread their legs to make room for the device. And they like Stephen would point it out to him. You should really watch the video. It's really good. It's really funny. There's this one idiot who's in a sweater vest, and Stephen is talking to him on I think it's a bus. He's talking to him, and the guy is he's man spreading right there as he's talking to Stephen. And the guy's like, well, you know what? Guys who do it, they just need to wear more comfortable pants. It was the most idiotic thing you've ever heard. And the guy said it while manspreading. And Stephen pointed it out. He's like, you're manspreading right there. Ladies, it's not about power. That's not why we do it. We have two testicles, they're sensitive, that are dangling outside of our body. They're like internal organs on the outside of the body. I'm telling you, just watch the video so you understand that it's not a power thing. It's literally just a comfort thing. It's a natural thing. We don't even try to do it. I think I like I'm I, this whole feminist thing. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's like for women, it's if they do the things that see. This is when I talk about double standards. I hate them. I can't stand them. It's like it's like if men do a thing, it's bad and it should be prohibited and it's wrong and it's disgusting and it makes us pigs. If women do the exact same thing, they're celebrated and they're praised, and it's like, oh, you're so brave. You're so courageous. Thank you, thank you for taking a stand against the patriarchy. There should be more women like you. What? Like this comment is so beautiful. Imagine constantly pointing out oppression and problematic behaviors in men, only to copy those behaviors and highlight them as cool and empowering. The irony is lost on them. That sums it up right there. You get on us if we do it. I've seen a woman go up to men who were just having this conversation, and they were manspreading. This woman comes up to them, she gets right in their faces and tells them, close your legs. Quit showing off, your authority and your power. And the dudes are literally, they're looking at each other and they're like, first of all, who are you? And it's just it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Ladies, it's not about power. It's not. You don't have something dangling between your legs. Seriously, it's not a difficult concept to explain. And here, this is back in the article, others scratch their heads at the idea that mimicking what feminists have labeled rude and sexist behavior was now somehow a cause for feminist celebration. What happened to, quote, genuine feminists who fought for childcare and other social issues that actually benefit women? Asked a skeptical social media observer. See, that's what I'm saying. This third wave feminism, it's nitpicking. It's looking at things that are just so unbelievably tiny. It's like you're just looking for problems. You're just looking for things that you can be angry about. That's what it is. And it's like, you had women's suffrage, the right to vote, right to own property, things like that, where they were actually fighting for good causes, which, it made sense. But then you have things like this. Manspreading, just stupid stuff. Things that are so insignificant. I talk about this all the time. Women in the Middle East. You want to talk about oppression, ladies? Look at policies in the Middle East. Imagine you are at home. You have to ask your husband or your brother for permission to leave the house. And you have to be at home. You have to leave at a certain time, go to certain places, and be back at a certain time, or else you could get beat, or be suspected of having an affair, and then you get killed. Seriously, if you want to talk about these things, you want to talk about feminist issues, help ladies, help women who are actually oppressed. Help women who are actually, being controlled by men. Women have to totally, cover up. Can't show any hair. It's ridiculous. But ladies in the United States have the nerve. They have the nerve to be mad about manspreading. The manspreading phenomenon dates back some 5 years when feminist activists began a campaign to shame men who sit with spread legs on public transportation. And let me just say this, it's not public transportation. It's also in public places. The movement, this is back in the article, the movement was particularly successful in New York City, where police reportedly even began prowling the subway for men who took up too much space. The sitting posture soon became synonymous with, yep, here it is, toxic masculinity, which also includes behavior such as mansplaining, when a man condescendingly explains something to a woman. Manspreading still makes regular appearances in pop culture and public discourse. A recent Taylor Swift music video, The Man, the one that I talked about the other day, features a rather two-dimensional male caricature who proudly manspreads on the subway, much to the disgust of everyone around him. Alright. You know, that's really all I gotta say, man. I mean, maybe you ladies just don't quite get it. Like seriously. I don't know what Steven Crowder used to make that video. You know, the device. But literally, ladies, just do this. Because I can't think of anything else for you to understand this. Buy a strap-on. Doesn't matter the size. Have it shipped to your home. And just wear it in your home. And, just sit down in different places. Close your legs. Let's see how long they stay closed. Because eventually, your legs are going to be hurting. You're going to open your legs. Like, I'm serious. Like this issue it annoys me so much. Because women think that this thing is about power. No, it's not. We're trying not to crush, our penis and our testicles. We have body parts dangling between our legs. Ladies, you don't have anything between your legs that's dangling. Okay, I can't think of a different solution. I seriously can't think of a different solution for women to understand this. I can't. Let me go into this next story because I could stay on this for the whole time. Okay. There's this podcast that it's called Dying for Sex. And let me just go here, okay? Dying for Sex podcast follows host Nikki Boyer's best friend who has terminal cancer and her sexcapades. If you knew that you only had a short time left to live, how would you spend it? That's the question Nikki Boyer poses at the start of Dying for Sex. A fascinating 6-part podcast. Concluding March 11th, the series follows the wild sexcapades of Boyer's best friend Molly, who was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal breast cancer at 41. Which, let me say this, I'm terribly sorry about that. That's really unfortunate. God can heal that. Seriously. But you can't keep doing this. But I will say this. I'm sorry about that. Okay. That's devastating news. Okay. That's not something to play around with. Okay. You have my sympathy. Upon receiving the devastating news, Molly, who battled breast cancer once before in 2011, leaves her unsatisfying marriage to explore her sexuality and fuel her dwindling vitality. Sexually, we had difficulties before cancer came along the first time. Molly, whose last name is being withheld for privacy reasons, says of her marriage, "Right before I got diagnosed, I was kind of looking to recharge our sex life, and then cancer showed up." They never got back on track after the first round of treatments, which consisted of a double mastectomy, radiation, chemotherapy, and reconstructive surgery. Still, they stayed together until Molly's second diagnosis. Her new medication came with some surprises. Unlike chemo and radiation, it didn't ravage her body. In fact, if you didn't know Molly, you wouldn't know she was sick. The meds also put her libido in overdrive. "I was horny all the time," she says. "My body needed to be touched." So she left her husband and catapulted herself into the dating scene, a series of adventures and misadventures that she shares with her best friend on the show, like a Sex and the City brunch with Chemo instead of Cosmos. The pair candidly gab about Molly's conquests, the Ryan Reynolds lookalike who's into masochism, the at-home massage with an accidental happy ending, the awkward car romp with a guy who couldn't contain or maintain his enthusiasm, and the mortician she made out with while he was in full clown makeup. In one episode, the pair tries to count the number of suitors in Molly's phone. They quit at 183. "Sex," Molly says, "makes me feel alive, and it's a great distraction from being sick." She's sexually and emotionally open and non-judgmental, Boyer tells the Post of her best friend. The pair met 20 years earlier in a New York City acting class. She said the dates were helping her feel alive. She was reclaiming her body. Boyer says the idea for the podcast came one day in 2018 when she picked up Molly for lunch at noon. "I said, 'Why do you look really cute?' She said she had already been on 2 dates," says Boyer, who explains that the meds also disrupted her sleeping habits, making her wake up at the crack of dawn and giving her more time to date. One guy had gotten in from the night before and they met for coffee at 6 a.m. And she had breakfast with the next guy. I said, "There's a story in here. Sex and illness are rarely discussed together." Which, by the way, is true. I will say that. I'm not going to go into the rest of this. You guys get the idea. Okay. Now, I don't know if you guys... This is wrong. It's wrong. I see where she's coming from. I do. I will say that. She's dying. She knows she's going to die, pretty quickly. That's what she's been told. So that, that'll affect your mindset. And so she's thinking, okay, well, I'm going to enjoy my last days. I want sex. I need sex. And so my husband we are not sexually compatible. It's not working. It's not going well. So I'm going to leave him and I'm going to go exploring. I'm going to go fulfill my desires. I'm going to do things that I've always wanted to do before I die. This is her bucket list. Pretty much everybody has one. Okay? But this is wrong because part of marriage, when you are at the altar, it's till death do us part, in sickness and in health. This woman is committing adultery. And it's sad. This is really, really, really sad. Now, I want to go off on a little tangent, okay? One thing that you have to do before you get married, because they were having problems before chemo, before her first diagnosis in 2011 of breast cancer. Okay? One of the things you have to talk about before you get married is sex. You have to talk about sex and your sexuality. You have to. You know, how often would we be having sex? You know, how many times a month would we be doing it? You know, what are you into? What are you not into? Because these questions matter. Because once you get married and once you're living together, you're now doing it. I knew a couple. I think I've talked about them before. There was a guy I knew, and this was back in high school, and he said, at a minimum, he said he was in a relationship. We weren't friends, but we were cool with each other, and him and I could easily talk. He said that, you know, he had a fight with his girlfriend because, you know, he was like, you know, I really like her, I really care about her. You know, she means the world to me. I would do anything for her. But it's like she doesn't want to have sex with me. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, I want to have sex with her every day, if not every other day, which would be 15 to 30 times a month. I said, okay, that's really high. And I said, okay. And I said, what about her? And he said that she only wanted to have sex with him once a month. No more than once a month. And like my eyes just like went huge. And I was like, you know, that's not going to work out. And he's like, I know. And I'm not preaching sex before marriage. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to have sex before you get married to find out about these things. But I'm saying you have to talk about sex before you get married. Ladies, let me say this. We have sex with our bodies. We don't need romance. We don't need a massage. A massage would help. It would make things, you know, better. But we're pretty much always in the mood. Pretty much always. There was a study done. There was an experiment done in the 80s. And it was about strangers consenting to sex. And it was interesting. They went to college students on different campuses, and pretty much they have these people. They have these men and women who are part of the study. The women are told to ask one question. They're told to say like 2 sentences and one question. And here it is. I've been noticing you around campus. I find you to be very attractive. Would you go to bed with me tonight? That was what they were supposed to say. Both the men and the women, okay? 75% of men said yes. Ladies, that lets you know that we are ready. The vast majority of us is just like, sex right now? Oh, okay, let's go. You have no idea how it affects us. You really don't understand it. Women, for 75% of the guys said yes. Now, this was back in 1989. Okay, this was. But I guarantee you that number hasn't changed that much. Because that's just how we guys are wired. We don't need to get in the mood. We see a good-looking girl, we're like, yep. That's our mentality. 0% of women agree to the guys. 0%. Now, this is just wrong. This is just wrong. And you know, here's the thing about, let me say this. I have been close to death. I have. That's the reason I had the hiatus. I had a 30% chance to live. My body took a lot of damage when I contracted the flu. And I nearly died. Okay. I'm gonna say this. I will concede this. I cannot relate to this. I cannot relate to being told I have a terminal disease and that I'm going to die soon. I can't relate to that. I will concede that. But it does not make it okay to just go and commit adultery. It doesn't. It doesn't make things any better. Because see, there are in my opinion, I have some pretty good experience with the Bible. And I'd say that I would probably say that there are 6 reasons that God created sex for marriage. I'd probably say 6. Some might say 5, some might say 7. But I'd probably say 6. Okay. So, one reason, which is the reason that this woman is doing it, is for recreational purposes. Sex is fun. It feels good, you're enjoying yourself, recreational purposes, okay? That's one. Obviously, procreation, having children, that's huge. That just, you need that. If humans are going to live, if humans are going to keep on going, you have to have sex. Because you got to procreate. Well, I should say back in the day, because now, we can, freeze your eggs and do stuff like that. But, you understand. Procreation. Okay? I would say the third reason, I'd say it's for really getting to know someone. Like in the Bible, when it talks about sex, it uses the word, and they knew each other, which meant they had sex. Because there is nothing that 2 humans can participate in that's more intimate than sex. Name an activity. Think of an activity. There's nothing more intimate than sex. Nothing. Because here's the thing. You have sex with relatively very few people. Compared to all the interactions you're going to have in your life, sex is one of the things where it's shared with the least number of people. Okay? That's really huge. I mean, you're naked, you're extremely vulnerable. That's it. Okay? It's for really knowing someone and knowing who they are and building that relationship with them. Building a relationship with them. I would probably say, I don't think I can think of a better word, but I would say oneness. Just, because you are connecting with a person. There are chemical reactions that happen in the brain, and it's super addictive. I think it's like, I know especially for guys, it's like heroin. It's super addictive. Like, here's the thing. Once a guy loses his virginity, it's pretty much over. Sex is like it's one of the main driving forces of men. We try to get good jobs, to get, good money, to get the resources that will attract the women to get, so that way we can have more sex. That is the basic level of that's the basic mentality of a man when it comes to sex. Get the resources so we can get the women, because women want male resources, And once we get the woman, we can have the sex. Okay, so oneness. And another thing about it, oneness, here's the thing. Casual sex isn't a thing. I've said this before, and it's been proven. If you have prostitutes, and there's one man, and say there's 10 prostitutes in a line, he has to have sex with all 10 of them. But there is going to be one that he's going to it's going to be his favorite. She may not be the best looking, but we are created to have to be intimate with one person. We want to have a favorite because we connect with that person. You don't connect with everyone equally. So you give a guy 10 prostitutes, you can't really do it to a woman because women they wouldn't really pay for sex. Us men, we would. But he's going to frequent, say, prostitute number 6 the most after having to sleep with all of them. He'd be like, you're my favorite. Let's just, keep doing it because I really felt something with you. And that's what happens. Casual sex isn't a thing, just going and having sex with people. It doesn't work. That's not how we're wired. All right. Sex, I would say, is for feeling safe. When you're having sex, you feel safe. If you don't feel safe, you really don't have sex. And you can't climax because you have anxiety. And then the last thing I would say, probably protection. That's what I would say. Because what it does, here's the thing. Couples are supposed to have sex frequently, and it's not supposed to be a bargaining tool. It's not supposed to be, okay, do this, and then you'll get sex. No, it's not sex is not a bargaining chip. That's not what it's for. Okay? It's supposed to be frequent and, no string, I'll use the term frequent and free. It's got to be frequent and it's got to be like, okay, if I have sex with you, you got to buy me shoes, or you got to cook for me tonight if I do this. That's not what it is. But anyway, those are the reasons why sex was created. That's my list of 6. You could probably break it down into fewer or many more, but I would say that there's probably 6. But this woman is committing adultery, and it's not okay. And it's wrong. And this is, you're not going to be, this woman's not going to be satisfied. She's not, because she talked about how they counted the number of people in her phone. They got to 183 people that she could possibly have sex with. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't have, it was the number of suitors, 183. That's where they quit. That's where they just stopped. It's not okay. This woman is committing adultery. And whether you like it or not, and I'm not saying this because she's a woman. If a guy did this, and he left his marriage just to go have sex, no, that's not okay. Or you're leaving it just to go fulfill your final dreams because you're dying. No. You do not do that. That is wrong. It's immoral. And it's just a really bad sin. Well, all sin is really bad. That was kind of redundant. Okay. Elizabeth Warren This is the last topic. Elizabeth Warren has dropped out. And I think it's interesting. Like, she did horribly Super Tuesday. Like, she did really bad. She did. And let me just get into the article. CNN. This is from the Daily Wire. And it's by Hank Berrien. And it's like, the title is CNN, Warren lost big because of, wait for it, sexism. And here's the thing. I knew this was coming. I knew Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar were eventually going to drop out. And I knew what would happen. Oh, they didn't win because, men just hate women. And men don't think women can be president. I'm gonna get into this article. In the wee morning hours after Tuesday night's Super Tuesday primary voting across the nation, a CNN panel surmised that across-the-board rejection of Senator Elizabeth Warren by Democrat voters was due to, you guessed it, sexism. As Curtis Houck of Newsbusters talked in his transcript, host Don Lemon and some of his guests could not fathom why Warren got destroyed in after primary unless it was because she was a woman. At 3:31 a.m. Eastern, CNN spent almost 8 minutes bashing Democratic primary voters as sexist heathens for not supporting Senator Elizabeth Warren. Lemon initiated the slam at Democrat voters for their supposed sexism by prompting, I want to bring it now to the women who are here to talk about that. You have these women, they're very strong, very powerful, very smart women in this race. You had Hillary Clinton, who was defeated despite winning the popular vote. You have Elizabeth Warren, who didn't do well, Amy Klobuchar, who was dropped out of this race. You have this very diverse Democratic Party, and then you have the women. You have all the white guys who have the delegates. What's going on here? After positing that Klobuchar lost because of her lack of money, the Daily Beast's Jackie, I can't pronounce her last name, offered this for Warren. If just the fact that this ground game did not turn out votes for her, did not get people to the polls for Elizabeth Warren, there's really a lot of digging as to why they didn't happen, whether it's sexism, whether it's the fact someone did just change their mind. I heard women when I was in Iowa tell me, we're Warren fans. We're worried that they liked Warren, they heard her speak. They went to the polls, and they were worried that a woman couldn't beat Donald Trump. Let me ask this. What is sexism? Like what is it? Like how are you defining it? Because we have to look at this. Let's say this. Let's say Elizabeth Warren was still in. And let's say she went on to win the presidency. Let's say she won election night. Would it be sexist if people didn't go out and vote for Trump or Biden or Sanders? Is that sexist? I'm saying say it's reversed. Let's say Joe Biden. Let's say Joe Biden, was doing really poorly and he just wasn't really getting delegates and he dropped out. Could we say that that's sexism? Let's say that there was, a black guy who was running. Or no, let's say black woman. Let's say it was a black woman. And let's say she was like Elizabeth Warren, kind of at the same stage. It gets to Super Tuesday, she does really poorly. Her dropping out Is that sexism and racism? I'm tired of the victimhood. There was a poll by Gallup. I've talked about this in probably every other episode ever since it's come out. Listen, this is from Gallup. This is from Gallup, okay? Okay, 93% of voters said they had no problem voting for a woman. In 1958, 54% said they were okay voting for a woman. 1983, 80%. 2007, 88%. 2015, 92%. 2020 is 93%. 93% of voters said they'd have no problem voting for a woman. Here's the thing. Here's the idea. Listen to this. The Democrats are trying to push this idea that Trump is just this horrible, horrendous person. And anybody that's running in the Democratic race would be better than Donald Trump. So they're just saying, Pete Buttigieg said it best. Vote blue no matter who. Their idea is, okay, who is the best person? They keep saying it in all of their speeches where they end. They're like, the goal is to beat Donald Trump. Who can do that? Okay, it looks like he's got the best momentum going. I'm going to drop out. I'm going to throw my support behind him so that way we can beat Donald Trump. Now, are there people out there who think that a woman shouldn't be president? There are. I've met some men and women who think that. Do I think a woman should be president? Here's the way I look at it. One, the first thing I look at is, policy. That's what I look at because that's what the position is about. So if Elizabeth Warren had the best policies, I'm going to be honest. I would say, okay, this is this. So in my opinion, she has the best policies on paper. And I think she has the ability to get them done. Okay. Even if she was number one, I would say, okay, is there a man who's close to that? Because here's the thing. I'd probably vote for the man. Why? Because the president of the United States is the most powerful person in the world. And this woman, say it was Elizabeth Warren or just any woman, they go to meet other world leaders. Most world leaders are men. They are. And they're not going to see her how they would see a man. They would see the woman as sort of a joke. Now, this may come across as sexist, but I'm telling you that, these places don't have the same standards and the same ideas that America has. She didn't lose because she's a woman. That may be part of the reason, but that's not the main reason. They were all pushing this idea, we have to beat Donald Trump. I mean, if I had $1 for every time a candidate said Donald Trump's name, I could retire today and live nicely for the rest of my life. That's what it is. That is ultimately what it is. They said, okay, who can beat Donald Trump? Well, I don't think Elizabeth Warren can. I really, here's the thing. When you have this mentality, see, here's what I'm saying. Whoever wins, you can turn it any kind of way you want. Whoever loses, you can turn it it's like this. Let's say it was Pete against Donald. Pete loses. They say, oh, it's because America's homophobic. No. It's because they thought Donald Trump had better policies. And that Donald Trump had more experience. He's older. There'd be different reasons. But people just jump to conclusions that this intersectionality thing is horrible. It's probably one of the worst concepts that's ever been created. And if you aren't familiar with that term, intersectionality is this idea of, okay, so how would you, it's like this. How would you describe yourself? So for me, I'd say black, Gen Z, male, middle class. That's how I would describe myself for, in intersectionality terms. And it's like, the more things you have under the minority, the more minority boxes you check, it's like, oh my God, you're like the greatest person ever. So it's like, if you got like a Native American, female, pansexual, lower class, it's almost like you couldn't question her because she'd be like the greatest person to ever live. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. This idea that she lost because she's a woman. That's not the main reason. I think that is a reason. Here's the thing. It's about charisma. Charisma is a huge part of those who win. Ever since the first televised presidential debate, which I believe was 1960, it's about visuals. It's about charisma. It's about being entertaining. That's what it's about. TV is meant to entertain us. Who's the better looking guy? Barack Obama. He was really, I didn't really like his policies. That man could really work a crowd. Very charismatic. He had a swagger to him that people had never seen before. That's partly what it is. Now, why do I think that she lost? People may talk about the Native American thing. I don't really think so. I don't think, the whole Pocahontas thing that Trump calls her, and the fact that she's more white than the average white person, I don't think that has anything to do with it. Primarily because I don't think, here's the thing, people say that she was pandering. Who doesn't pander? If you're a politician, you're going to pander. That it's part of the game. I remember Jeb Bush in 2016, he was talking about, they were talking about illegal immigration, and he just brought up, oh, well, my wife is Mexican. It's like the joke that goes, oh, I have some black, I have friends who are black. Elizabeth Warren was like, oh, I'm Native American. Which, she's barely like, I can't remember the percentage, but it's just really small. Karen Finney, who was a spokesperson for the Hillary Clinton 2016 presidential campaign, offered her own version of the sexism charge. When it comes to executive office, our country is still very uncomfortable with women in power. And that's part of why women have to over-credential again and again. So in 16, we said, Hillary Clinton would have been the most qualified, right? Listen. Times are changing. You have the new generation coming up and looking at politics. And here's what I talked about yesterday. Young people They don't vote. It's really older folks who go out and vote. Here's the thing. Older folks are familiar with Hillary. Hillary was in politics for a long time. The longer you're in politics, the worse it really is. You really shouldn't have a long political career. That's another thing I like about Barack Obama. His political career was short. He got in, grassroots activist, rose up, became a senator, president. He was out. You got to keep your political career short. Hillary Clinton has done, and she's had so many offices, it's been ridiculous. Was she qualified? Yes, she was. You can't take that away from her. She was. She was the most qualified person in 2016. Hands down. But she may have been maybe overqualified because she was because she had so much experience and she was such an insider. It was kind of like, in politics, you got to make a lot of deals. And I think people were just like, nah, you've shaken too many hands. It's just not really, nah. You're too far in, Hillary. Just a little bit too far. I think that was a big factor in her losing. But stop just jumping to the isms. Sexism, racism. Xenophobia. I mean, can you say that Andrew Yang can you say that he lost because of racism? Did he lose because of xenophobia? See how you can just keep going with any candidate? If Bernie Sanders loses, could you say ageism is the reason he lost? It's just ridiculous, man. I can't stand it. It doesn't benefit anybody. So, she's out. I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anyone. So, we're going to see. We're going to see. Good for her. I don't think, from the moment she declared, she had no chance. See, here's the thing. When I look at things, when political races come, and they come around, I look at them and I look at their faces and I hear the names, and I'm pretty familiar with most people who enter. And I can instantly just say no. Kamala Harris entered. Nope. Pete Buttigieg entered. Nope. I thought he was going to be a trendsetter for sure. I thought he was really going to, get some momentum, but I was like, nope. Julian Castro. Nope. Beto O'Rourke. Definitely not. By the way, I think I've come on and said that that Joe Biden is a moderate. I think I have come out and said that. Now, he's not. But see, here's the thing. Compared to Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden is a moderate. That's why I said that. Joe Biden isn't a moderate. He wants, of all people, Beto O'Rourke, or I should say Robert Francis O'Rourke, which is his real name. He wants him to be in charge of, gun policies. Dear Lord. Just ridiculous. I just can't stand it, man. I just can't stand the belief that, it's because of this. It's because of this. It's because of this. Ultimately, it comes down to policy. And they kept preaching the same thing. Okay, it's all about beating Donald Trump. All right, if that's what you're talking about and that's what you're going on, then a lot of you should drop out right now, because you're not going to do it. I remember there was talking about that there was rumors that Michelle Obama could and would enter the race. I never thought she would do it. Did I think that she would be able to do it and beat Donald Trump? I thought, in a debate, I thought the debate would be a debate between Michelle and Donald would be just must-watch TV. Like that's like Game 7 of the finals. That's just must-watch TV. Did I think she'd win? No. Don't think so. And I never had the belief that she would run. Like you just got out of the White House. You've been in there almost a decade. Your family's grown up in there. Your girls are off to school, doing their own thing. I never thought she would do it. But I remember Michelle Obama in 2016. She said that women, and this was really just, let me say this. Everyone in their life says something stupid. We all do it. If you live long enough, you cannot avoid it. You will say something stupid eventually. But I remember Michelle Obama talked about, it was near like election night, and she was saying, ladies, pretty much voting against Hillary, I can't remember how she worded it, but pretty much voting for Donald Trump, you're voting against your sex. Which is just really stupid. Because if you remember, Michelle's husband, Barack, he ran against Hillary. And she didn't vote for Hillary. She voted for her husband. So because she voted for Barack, does that mean that she's against women? By her logic, when she said that, I was like, Michelle, Jesus, just close your mouth for a little bit. You said something stupid. And here's the thing. You go on the political trail, you give a lot of speeches, you meet a lot of people, you're going to say a bunch of stupid stuff. You're tired, you're traveling all the time, you're jet lagged, it's a mess. You're going to say stupid stuff. But I remember when Michelle said that, and I said, Michelle, just no. Just no. But anyway, that's the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys will be hearing from me once again on Friday.